Ah yes. Through the haze of BMW parts, I managed to acquire another project. This is a 1970-something Yamaha 175 Enduro. It is a vintage two-stroke dirt bike, street legal, and very broken. Well, not very. I got this for $120, supposedly just needing a throttle cable. It's a bit broken, but I also noticed it doesn't seem to have spark. There's also no exhaust, oil tank, and every piece of rubber has just rotted into oblivion. But a lot of those parts are in a bucket that came with the bike. And yeah, I guess let's see what we can find out on this thing. So I went ahead and hit this with some starting fluid and nothing happened. I took the plug out and rested it on the fins and I was getting no spark. Oops. Oh well, need a new plug anyway. I also stuck a multimeter into the spark plug boot and there was also no spark. I suspect the issue is going to be the points. This is a points ignition system. It also doesn't require a battery to start. The points are under this left cover, so I'm gonna go ahead and take off this shift lever and that should let me take off this left side cover and get to the points. We're gonna see if they're dirty. They frequently get dirty and corroded, and that's just what happens on an old bike that sits like this. Not a huge surprise. I've never actually dealt with points before though, so this will be a learning exercise for sure. Fair enough. This covers all the good bits we need to get to, so that's gonna have to come off. That is, what size is it? 19. Okay, so the actual procedure to pull this requires a special tool. There's threads on the inside of the flywheel and then threads on this post. I've got a tool that threads in here and then does all kinds of neat stuff and gets it out, so let me grab that. Here's the tool itself. There'll be a link in the description. It works for a whole bunch of different stuff. And that part is left-hand threads to engage with the flywheel. You want to use as many threads as possible. And then this thing goes in here and just pushes the flywheel right off. You can see the various magnets in there. And whatever that is, we've got the points here. So there is a cam surface in here that operates the points. It's very difficult to actually see, as it turns out. It's incredibly subtle. And so what I'm curious about is how much resistance there is across those points. Negligible. Oh, hang on, I'm doing something wrong here. 0.5 ohms and 2.5 when broken. I have no idea what the spec is, but that honestly doesn't seem bad. We're going handheld. Here is the points and the generator in this motorcycle. I measured the resistance across here with the points both open and closed, and they were within spec. I gave it a little clean anyway, but that all checked out, so I'm just gonna not replace that. And then up here at the coil trigger, I measured the resistance there, and it was the same as it was down on the points. So that means that the kill switch or one of the safety switches was not interfering, because what those do is they short all of this to ground, so it just reads 0 ohms all the time, which means it won't fire the coil. And then I measured, I think this is the primary winding, the resistance between here and ground, and that was within spec, but I was getting no continuity from the plug cap to ground. So we've got a bad coil with an open circuit on what I think is the secondary. So I ordered a new coil that will be here eventually. I also ordered some actual I lost my stupid JIS bit set. Do not use Phillips on these. You can already see this one looks slightly chewed up. This looks like a JIS number 2, maybe a number 3. That's the bit that you want to use for this. Anything else and you're in for a real bad time. If I'm feeling particularly bored, I might buy some different fasteners to replace this with a slightly different method of fastening. I'm not sure, but once all that's together, I should be able to get spark. And once I get spark, we'll see if this thing runs on starting fluid and maybe get into that carb. I might actually just take the carb off preemptively and give it a good cleaning when I put the new throttle cable on here. Everything else looks decent. We've got kill switch, brakes do something sort of, ignition. This bike doesn't require a battery to run because there's no CDI box to power up or anything like that. So I guess next time I see you, I'll have a new coil in hand and I'll be installing it on this beauty of a motorcycle. Okay, we've got a new coil. It did not come with a boot on it, so I've got a boot and a new auto light spark plug and some 2-stroke oil. But before things can go together, first they've got to come apart. I need to get this throttle cable off of here so I can put my new throttle cable on wherever that went. And the old coil has to come off as well, and the new coil needs a bit of work. So let's figure out where all my stuff is first of all. Naturally, despite using the correct JIS bit, that screw stripped out immediately. So what I'm gonna do is some very delicate machine work with an angle grinder and cut a slot in it. I hate angle grinders. These things scare the crap out of me. Here we go. Let's see if the old Harbor Freight zappy gun is able to get this thing off. Haha! And there we have a nice flathead screw. A lot of people's first move is always to like weld things. Like whenever someone has a stuck bolt on a form thread, everyone's like, oh, just weld to it. No, if there's material left, cut a slot in it. You get so much more leverage that way. And I mean, if that goes south, you could always weld to it later. But yeah, there's the old coil. Here's the new shiny one, except this is the wrong size and this has nothing on it. So let's go resolve both those issues. This bullet connector being the wrong size is one of the reasons that I'm very happy that I have a fairly well-stocked cabinet of electrical stuff. Just gonna cut the old one off. Yeehaw, strip off a little portion here, just like that. And then go over to my bag of tricks and pull out the correct size bullet connector, load it up into my crimp, and then a perfect bullet connector. Cool. NGK screw on waterproof cap. I believe this just goes on like that. Then you screw it, and that results in a very nice connection and a very good waterproof seal. And I can check this by seeing if I still have any conductivity between here and ground. Yep, that's making a connection. Cool. Probably just leave this in here because this is the electronic tools drawer, which is absolutely overflowing with garbage, but hey, that's how you know you've got enough stuff. This is now ready to go on the bike. Got my nice Vessel JIS screwdriver. I unfortunately lost one of the bits, so I ordered a whole new set because, you know, it's what you gotta do. I'm reusing the old fastener. I know that's probably not ideal, but since I know it's not ideal, it's okay for me to do it. Waste not, want not, that's still a perfectly good fastener, albeit a bit sharp where I cut it, but you know, these things happen. That feels solid. This is an excessive amount of wire. I may cut that down later, which is kind of the beauty of the screw-on NGK boot. Since it's not crimped, I can take it back off and on several times and shorten this cable down to something more reasonable. I might cut it in half since it's going to be going about here. Well, I'm about ready to kick this thing over and see if I've got spark now, but first I've got to go ahead and put the flywheel back on. So let's just take my puller back out of here. There's a key here that I need to line up with the key on the crankshaft, and this all just slides into place. Reverse threads, so turn right to loosen. Off comes my tool. And then round washer, then lock washer, and then this with the flat side facing in. What is this torque to? Not sure. Good enough. I guess that was the right plug that was in there. I was not entirely sure if this NGK was correct or not. This to run, ignition is on. Let's hold that on the ground and this should produce its own electricity. That is unfortunate. So after a fairly unhelpful, frankly, few minutes on the internet, I decided to take a look at the condenser, which is this little guy right in here. And as you can see, maybe, the top of it, this is a capacitor, has actually started coming off. So I think that thing is pretty well cooked. Fortunately, it's a whopping $10 for a replacement, so I'll get one of those on the way. In the meantime, I got a bit giddy and went ahead and put the exhaust loosely in place, and I do mean loosely. Look at the routing for this. It connects at the front where it is absolutely not bolted down because all this stuff is going to move, and it comes over the right side of the bike, up and through the middle of the frame, and it was a bit of a trick to wiggle this thing on through here. Basically touches the carburetor. I'm sure that's, I mean, hey, your carbs aren't going to ice over at least. Comes over to the left where the beauty cover attaches to it, and then right here it necks down to this little muffler section that gets attached. I gotta say, the bike looks a lot more complete and nice with that on there. I'm a big fan. Let's go ahead and get this throttle cable off of here so I can install my shiny new part and see if the slide in this carb is free. If not, then definitely going to take it apart. But if it's free and moves okay, I might just leave the carb on there until I have spark. So, you know, who knows? It might just fire once I get some spark going here. I'm also going to get the, I want to take a look, because I'm going to have to anyway, at this oil pump over here. This is an oil injected two-stroke, so you don't have to premix. In theory, you have this awesome retro cool oil reservoir, oil tank, and it goes down the world's most rotten, or is it this one? It goes down that. It goes through that nipple, through, I believe, this, into a pump that sits right here. It's driven off the crankshaft, and then when you pull on the throttle to give the engine more gas, it also gives it more oil. So you don't have to premix. You think you still put premix oil in there though, and I did buy some of that, but I'd like to make sure that this works, because if it doesn't, they're not really rebuildable. You just kind of have to try and find one that works and put it in there, or you just run premix. No harm, no foul. So I'm very interested in that. I mean, if it works, great. If not, whatever. I'm not going to put the effort into it. This is a fun little beater bike. It doesn't need to be 100% original. I don't think I'm going to touch that tank. That tank has an incredible amount of stories on it, so I'm going to leave that how it is. But let's, oh, that's already loose. Here's my screwdriver. Let's get to work on that. So this is the wiring for the kill switch, and as you can see, it is pretty much completely munched. I'm just going to cut that and not have a kill switch for the moment. I'll put one on eventually, but just to keep myself from having further troubles, take the kill switch out of the equation entirely. I might solder some new wires on there, or come up with a different solution, or just buy a new one. At any rate, let's continue with this here cable. Okay, so I got the carburetor slide taken apart here. Looks like we've got some stuff. It kind of came apart too quickly for me to tell what happened, really. Looks like we've got a needle in really good shape. Stick that back in the slide there. And then this thing that goes over it somehow, kind of like that-ish. I'm not actually sure how that worked. Oh, I see. So this went like this over that hole, and this this little prong here goes down in that slot to keep the throttle cable from slipping out. So I've got my new throttle cable here. Shiny. So let's see here. I'm gonna stick the throttle cable through the big hole. On this side, we're gonna push it over to the small one and make sure that it gets stuck in there. And then this keeper goes down in there to make sure it does not move. And boy, there we go. Boy, I bet that's loud. That thing is kind of tricky to get back in. Oh, dang it. Okay, I've got to do all that again. I didn't put it through any of this stuff first. There we go. And that is all nice and spring loaded. And that is what the throttle cable pulls on. I hope I stayed in frame for all that. What a mess. Back in the carburetor it goes. This all looks super clean. Somebody has definitely cleaned this. This makes me a bit more confident that this thing will actually start once I get my spark situation figured out. This all fills me with a bit less confidence. First of all, I don't think this even like fits. This is for the wrong sort of fitting. But what I do know is that this thing is just hashed. This that's not how that's supposed to look or work or anything. So I'm just gonna, sure does make using the throttle a bit weird having that connected, so I might just unhook that altogether. I will happily just pre-mix some fuel and call it good. Every good two-stroker has a pre-mix bottle in their backpack. I don't see why it should be any different. I have to say I'm quite happy with that. Make sure these are good and torqued down. Good screwdriver. Well, that's about all I can do on this thing for now until the parts get here to continue work on it, but it's coming along. I'm real excited for this thing to run again. I've never had a two-stroke, never had a dirt bike, so this is a whole lot of firsts here. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more motorcycle content, or if you want to see me do something specific with this. Right now, I think the plan is just to take it to a nearby off-road park and try not to break anything, be it on the bike or, well, me. But who knows, maybe a road trip with some friends is in order. Maybe not riding this on a road trip. I think these top out at 60 miles an hour, but a road trip. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I hear if you hit the bell, it makes all your dreams come true, or maybe it's just mine. At any rate, thanks for watching.